Welcome back, everyone, to Random's Thoughts. We're bringing you another, well, embarrassingly enough, another one of my losses today. But losses are important teaching elements. Wins can be as well, but I'm sure many of you out there have heard and even thought of this yourself, that you tend to learn a lot more when you say, well, I got my ass kicked. What happened? So here's one where I believe I've identified, and even in the moment, I just knew that I was doing the wrong thing, and I'm sure many of you, well, maybe not that many of you out there, maybe it's just a me thing, where you almost had this out-of-body experience where you can feel yourself, you know you are doing the incorrect thing, but you're watching yourself do it anyway. So let's jump into this game and see if it's as obvious to everyone else as it was to me. I think it will be. So in this particular matchup, and I do want to slow this down, I am running Red-Orange Journey into Ragnar, who's running Orange-Blue Rainbow, a archetype that's been tearing up the ladder as of late. Now, I'm not a fan of Red-Orange Journey in general. I know it was very popular before. I tried it a lot pre-expansion, post-Winter War. For me, it kind of just fell off entirely. But I was circling back and trying to find things for Conquest lineups. Now, in speaking with Dryas, who is, and I'm going to pause it just so I can get this thought out, Dryas, who is arguably the progenitor of the current blue-orange rainbow list, they had indicated that both the Rebels matchup as well as this matchup can be very challenging. Why? Well, ready for anything. This card ends up blanking a lot of the removal, as you'd imagine. Blue stuffs, whether it's Stormseer, it's Thunderclap, it could be Magnus, it could be insert thing. They're damage based. So not only is there armor, which means that you don't trade very well to try and fight on the board, it's also worded, meaning all of that out of combat damage is irrelevant. So we ended up having, and we're able to forge early on, ready for anything, as well as finding more. We also happen to be running Bastard in this list. Now, this is a little weird because I was originally going to cut it from the list because I was considering banning Rainbow in my Conquest matchup. So therefore, what purpose does the Bastard have? I'm not going to be playing against Rainbow and most other things. Yeah, you'll occasionally steal a Bald Mountain here or there. Maybe go get wild and steal an invisible city or something. I don't know. Point being is that there weren't going to be too many targets. I'm sure I could find a more valuable purpose for that slot. However, I forgot. So that's why we're playing with it. As far as my early plays here, obviously we didn't have a turn one play. We're just burning the ready for anything. We're going into Tricksters here because I felt we wanted to contest the board. I don't want to give the Rainbow deck the opportunity to just build an advantage, because once you're in the mid to low teens, the game is all but over against a Rainbow deck. Most of the time, you're just not going to be able to lock up the board with the sufficient security to ensure that you can keep them from tooting you to death or playing Allfather's Horn. Now here, the Trickster doesn't do a whole hell of a lot. We walk into a Stormseer plus Field of Poppies. Ragnar was able to burn triple blue, but his hand is mono blue. I mean, for a brief moment, I did wonder if he was playing mono blue, but you'll see as the game progresses. So since we're not under a huge amount of threat, I felt we could get one turn taking a break, despite what I was talking about earlier about not allowing the Rainbow deck to get ahead. I wanted to get this ready for anything online. Plus, and here's the other piece, we were going second, which is every Journey player's dream. You start off with those extra souls, meaning that this Trickster here costs less, it's bigger, it's faster, it's stronger, it even slices a tomato. Something like that, whatever. Infomercial. Anyway, move on. You can do a lot more with this. Therefore, I thought we'd be okay. Taking a chance here. But we're going to be able to ready for anything again, which felt fantastic. At this point, I felt like we were, despite being behind on the board, pretty far ahead. Now, there's a chance here, and the risk is that the Bragi here is going to get Ragnar back in the game. And the draws from Ragnar off of this Bragi obviously dig him into more tools. Now, he's keeping the parry, although he doesn't have orange. Obviously, he needs to get there at some point. And in the meantime, he's able to, thanks to the Stormseer reduction, advance threats and make Bragi able to one-for-one trade with the Trickster. Now, we could have done a couple things different on this turn. We'll let it play out and then talk about it. So, the Trickster is going to get activated, and I'm going to trade with Bragi. Why did we do that? Well, I felt that we needed to, he has a whole bunch of stuff on the board. We got to activate the Trickster. Even though we are now at exactly the threshold here at 16 health that I was talking about. Mid to low teens, we're going to be in trouble. And it's turn 5. It's not that long before Toots here gets online and starts doing mean things to us. So, we do need to contest the board, but I also wanted to ensure that Bragi didn't get live. I should have pointed it out beforehand, but he's getting up there in energy. It's just not worth the risk. So we had to get rid of Bragi immediately, in my opinion. I didn't think it was worth trying to be cute and trading here, and then all of a sudden, oh, Ragnar has a thunderclap, and whoops, we're getting blown out. So here, since we have ready for anything, we have, well, not slightly larger, significantly larger, well, maybe not significantly, larger bodies, we'll say. So we can start filtering things with the bull. We can start contesting multiple parts of the board. I felt okay with this. We're going to take 3 from here if he chooses to attack, but if not, then we're buying time. Now, the problem is Ragnar did find a Rye Trickster, which now, thanks to the Demolition Speedway, is a threat in and of itself. So now we have to respect both sides of the board, and the Trickster is going to make it so this side of the board is not in great shape. We'll go through the turn, and then we'll see what I did. So Ragnar's burning clearly to try and get to Horn. I mean, this much is obvious. He's going to be finding stuff because of Foresight, and he does find the Borealis Bridge, which is super dangerous. We don't know that yet, so keep that in mind. So the Gigantomachia, to me, is likely to never do anything in this matchup. Yes, there's Bragi, but he's already dead. Yes, they could Giant Stairway, but that's probably going to come down when Allfather's Horn does, so we'd be dead. Point is, we'd never play it. So here is a setup that I felt we had to do. So we don't know where the Trickster went. I expected the Trickster to be on the Bull. However, I think Ragnar put it here on the Trickster because he was expecting that I would try and crash and get some free stuff out of this. Well, not free, but we trade down, and live. Unfortunately, I didn't think we could risk it, because if Ragnar had chosen to put the Shopborn Bull under the effects of the Trickster, and we tried to punch anything, guess what? We're losing it, and we're not killing anything. So, as a result, I'm kind of forced into the Trickster trading with things, because A, it's already fragile because of this, but it's going to be double fragile because of the Trickster. So, we're able to advance the Oak, heal a little bit. We trade with the Stormseer because otherwise it was going to end up clearing our board. Now, I played the Panacea here because I wanted to ensure that we didn't have any other shenanigans happening. We can dig, we heal a little bit, it's going to get us soul, all of these benefits for playing the Trickster. Now, Ragnar makes these things significantly more threatening because now we have an occupied Borealis Bridge. And here's the other problem. Although we were able to stem some of the damage coming through, it's still overrun. It's still, we're still getting punched. Again, we stemmed some of the damage, but our board position isn't spectacular. However, even before this draw, I thought we were in good shape. We had more ready for anything. We had our get out of jail free card, quote unquote. Spoiler alert, this is kind of what involves the mistake. We have a threat over here on this side of the board. We can contest these. I thought we were in okay shape. Then we drew Stairway to Hades, and I felt significantly better about a lot of this. So we're going to draw. I actually end up getting rid of the Ruby here. There's an argument to keep it, I guess. But one thing I'm going to point out here when this turn ends is where I felt the mistake truly was. So we'll let the turn expire. There we go. So we get Serapis. Anybody catch it? So we bowled. We stairwayed. We reanimated our Oak. We attacked. We didn't burn. Why does that matter? Well, as I mentioned, we have a get out of jail free card. Sort of. The problem is it needs 2 more turns to get online. And I distinctly recall thinking in this match, at this stage, the only way that I felt that Ragnar could get out of this was with Earth Slide. So, what should we have done? Burned anything. I don't care. Anything. Just get there so that we can play the Angel on curve. If Ragnar is unable to Earth Slide, between the value generated from this, the Ready for Anythings, the Serapis we just drew, whatever, whichever one we burn or keep, we should have been able to maintain control of this game, continue to apply pressure, and Ragnar, presumably one of these cards was Horn. I kind of assume past a certain point that if your opponent has a card in their hand that just never leaves, and yes, it can be difficult to track whether the card, gets shuffled around in their hand or whatever. But point is, if they have a card in their hand past a certain point in the game, you have to assume that they have Horn. And you have to play around the fact that they have Horn. So instead of preparing ourselves for the only other card that would matter realistically, because yes, Ragnar could end up drawing 2 cards a turn with Foresight, but we can hopefully close the game before that. We have a set of threats. We have multiple souls, so we're going to be reanimating a Trickster. We can control this board, in my opinion, and end the game. But we did not set ourselves up for a reset so that way, if an Earth Slide is played, where all of a sudden Ragnar has an enormous board and we can't necessarily combat it, we're in trouble. Like I said, spoiler alert. So Ragnar is able to clear out the Oak. I mean, that was going to happen. We took the Tahabanim back because I was expecting we want another orange to burn. But it's almost like I knew it was coming, probably because I played the game before. Like, this was my game. Here's the Earth Slide. And like I said, what's frustrating to me, and I'm pausing again just so I can rant a little bit, there's 2 different types of frustrating losses. Well, all losses are frustrating, but the 2 main categories to me are variance losses, where you go back, either you may notice it in the moment, but it's better to go back and ensure, yes, this was truly my opponent top deck. Truly, I bricked 7 turns in a row. Truly, this is a terrible matchup, and we need divine intervention for it to change. That's one category. The other category is when you screw up. In the moment, it is, for me personally, way more frustrating when you make a mistake. However, over the long term, I find variance-related losses to be far more infuriating, and it's kind of a slow burn, and then it just bothers me. This kind of loss is super frustrating because I'm just really mad at myself in the moment, and then after a little while, I go, you know what? I can do better next time. It's important to remember, and part of the reason why I wanted to talk about this game, and I should have said this in the beginning, but this is a somewhat small it's not, oh my God, you just saw this thing on the board and you walked into it, or you got blown out because your opponent set up this elaborate play. This is, I just didn't burn on 1 turn. And 2 turns later, I die as a result. Well, I guess technically 3 turns later, but effectively I'm dead this turn. So one other thing I'll point out is Ragnar foresighted. In the replay, we can see what he foresighted for, but we didn't know that. We saw him burn Horn. So it's entirely possible that there isn't a Horn there, or whatever. It could just be an enchantment. He tries to draw 2 cards and find the Horn. However, as you'll see, that isn't quite what happened. So, at this point, I'm kicking myself, and I said internally, self, you're going to lose this game, because I knew what was going to happen. It doesn't take Nostradamus or any divine prophetic abilities to predict where this is going to go. So I did have a debate again with myself as to whether to play Perry with Trickster or Agitator versus the Serapis. Ultimately, I felt that this was going to buy more time if he has the Horn. However, it realistically doesn't matter because they get teleport, so he can move the 2 biggest ones over here and just crush us. So this is 13 damage right here, and then just get through. So it doesn't actually matter there. Might have been better to play the Trickster, etc. But we have to honor this and kind of cross our fingers that Ragnar bricks on not finding the Horn. Well, folks, as you can see, the Horn is there, and we die. This was very much a game that was quote-unquote won and then just punted into the stratosphere, which is important, again, like I said a few moments ago, to look back at losses, look back at wins even, and say, what truly caused this? What really happened? In this particular case, by all accounts, I am favored in this matchup. Well, all accounts that I've had access to. I haven't played the matchup a whole lot myself, so maybe I made a bunch of other errors. I was mostly focused in this particular recording on calling out this one play, because it may not seem as though it is necessarily in your face, man, you screwed this up. I think a lot of strong players are going to look at this and hear me say it may not be that obvious and go, yes, it is, you dummy. Why didn't you just burn? that was, you even identified it, or you're claiming you identified it. Why didn't you just do that? And they wouldn't be wrong. But I'm pointing it out because there are a lot of mistakes, and it's very easy to fall into the trap of, oh, well, there's nothing I could have done. My opponent drew perfectly. They hit both horns. They burned a horn and then found another one. Okay, well, clearly Ragnar was setting something up, and we knew the outs that were available to that deck at that point in time. We chose not to play around them for realistically no reason. This loss is not on variance. This loss is on poor play. And again, I'm harping on it in this particular recording for exactly that reason. So, hopefully everybody learned a little bit from that. We're going to have more of these coming up. But as always, everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And Black Lives Matter.